Okay, well, good morning, 8th graders. We are in the final chapter, and we are on the Chapter 11 review today. So we will have 2 days of review, and then we will take our test, and then you will be done with 8th grade math. So congratulations, you guys have worked really hard. I'm really proud of you. So if you want to follow along, we're on page 483, and this is going to be review on the homework that will be on this review for tomorrow's lesson. So the first part is basically just going to say what is a real square root and what is not. So if the number is positive, that is real. Okay, it's a real number. You can actually solve it as long as it is positive in there. As long as it's not negative, it is a real square root and you can solve it. So if they give you the square root of 169, the answer would just be 13. Okay, so that's what they're looking for at the beginning. Remember, if it looks like this, okay, that's still real. Why is that still real? Because the negative here is outside of the radical, so that's good. Cha-ching, still real. What's not good is when we have the square root of that. That right there is inside the radical, and the answer to that is no real solution, right? Nothing times itself could ever equal a negative number, no matter if it was negative, positive, or whatever. So that's the first part. That's a little bit of review. Just remember how they do that, and then remember that square root is something times itself. That's pretty easy. Then we have something like this. Simplify the following, right? If we have 49 plus 25, right, all we do is we add first what's in there. So I do 49 plus 25, which is 64 here, right? 49 plus 25, which is actually 74. So here, what I won't want to do, right, the square root of 74, that's not very helpful, right? So I would have to then solve that. But if they gave me the square root of 39 plus 25, that's going to equal the square root of 64. And I know what the square root of 64 is, right? That's the answer to that is simply 8. So you can, sometimes your answer has to be left like this, the square root of 74, and then sometimes it comes out to a whole number. Okay, so you can do it. Yeah, you can do it either way, but most of the time it works out where you can just simply solve it. Okay, so they give you one that's a little harder. So this is actually one of your homework ones. So if you want to follow along, that could be helpful. You have 2 times the square root of 25 minus 16. All of that plus the square root of 81, right? All we do is we do what's in here first. So I'm going to have 2 times the square root. What is 25 minus 16? That's 9. Plus the square root of 81, right? So then this is the square root of 81 is 9, right? And the square root of 9 is 3. So I have 2 times 3 plus 9. So 2 times 3 here is 6. Right? 2 times 3 is going to give me 6. Plus this 9 right here gives me a grand total of 15. Right? So it's just doing the order of operations and solving simply like that. Okay? So if you look at your homework, that's going to be one of them. So there's a freebie. Then we have something that they like to do, and that's say find which integers this is between. So this is another homework one. If they give you the square root of 11, right? I look over here and I say what numbers, integers is like in between, right? So I have 1 squared, which is 1, 2 squared, which is 4, 3 squared, which is 9, which is 9, 4 squared, which is 16, 5 squared, which is 25. Which one does 11 fall between? 11 falls between those two. So it falls between 3 and 4. So I just do 3 is less than that, which is less than 4. Okay, and I just write my answer like that right there. So I would say the answer is 3 and 4. Now, if it's negative, remember it's a little tricky. If I say, what is the, if I have something negative square root of 63, right? I come over here to my chart and I think, 7 squared is 49. 8 squared is 64. That means that 63 is falling right there. But the thing is, look at this. It's a negative sign. So I need to have my answer be like this. Negative 8, I go with the inverse order. Negative 8 is less than negative square root of 63, which is less than negative 7, right? It's the inverse order. Okay, but it's the same idea. I just find which one is it between, and then I write my answer. Okay, not too hard. You guys can do that. Then, this is where it's fun. We just use our calculators, right? If they say estimate, I want you to just use your calculator. estimate. Can't spell that, but they say estimate. You would just type in your calculator. So on mine, I type in the square root of 129, and the answer is 11.35. 357. So if I round to this place, that's going to be 11.4. And I just say one decimal place. Answer is 11.4. That's super easy. You literally just type it in your calculator. Okay, you guys can do that. If you need to pause the video and follow along, go ahead and do that. But moving right along here, then we have solving equations. So if we have something like this, the square root of x plus 5 equals 37. Sorry, not 37. Let's do just 13. Oops, go back here. 13. Right, all we do is we solve for x just like we would a normal equation. So the first step is to subtract 5, and I'm left with the square root of x equals, what's 13 minus 5? That's 8, so I'm left with that. Now, to get rid of this radical here, does anyone remember what we do? All we do is square it, and we have to do the same thing to both sides. So this makes this thing go away, right? When I square it and the square is gone, I'm just left with x equals 8 squared. What is 8 squared? 8 squared is 64. And that is my final answer, okay? Not too bad to do that. Now, got to remember that sometimes this doesn't work out, right? If I have the square root of x, okay, something like this, the square root of x square root of x plus 9 equals 0. Okay, what's going to happen here? I'm going to subtract 9. I'm going to get the square root of x equals negative 9. Now, that sounds good, right? Because I can square this, squared, get rid of that, and square this, and get 81. So you would think x equals 81, but let's try it. So let's do this here. I put it back in this equation, so I go, whoop, put it in there. The square root of 81 plus 9. So this becomes, the square root of 81 becomes 9 plus 9, and 9 plus 9 does not equal 0. It equals 18. Why does it not work? Because we had a negative 9 right here. So in this, the real answer to this one is not real. Not real solution, no real answer. You can write it anyway. Just remember that it works like that. Now if you have one that looks like this, you have the square root of 3x minus 4 equals 2. Remember, the first step is we're trying to solve for x, but we have this radical in the way, so I get rid of him by squaring him and squaring this side, and I'm left with 3x minus 4 equals 4 squared, which is 4. And then I add 4, the 4's cancel. I'm left with 3x equals 0. Divide by 3, and I get x equals 0. So there is my final answer. And I think I may have, let's see. Cool. So just follow the steps through as much as you can. It should work out most of the time. If not, then like on this case, I have to try it, okay? So this looks like this would work, right? That seems normal. Let's try the 0 in there. So put a 0 in there. 3 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 4, I get the square root of negative 4 equals 2. Now that almost looks like it would work, but guess what? I can't have the square root of negative 4. So the answer to this one would be not real, right? It's not a real number. No number can be squared. So sometimes that's just the way it works, where you can't solve it, okay? And then that's when you write not real. Let's see. The only other review that we're going to do for today here is when they give us something like this. So this is a homework problem. So you probably want to write this down. X squared plus 31 equals 112. Okay, so we're doing the same thing. We're solving for x. So the first step is to subtract 31. Subtract 31. I'm left with x squared equals 81. Now to get rid of this squared, I take the square root, right? Boom, it's all gone. Take the square root of that side. I'm left with x equals 9. And this is the very important part. It's plus or minus 9. Don't forget to add the plus or minus when we are going from something squared, because something squared gets rid of the minus. So it could be plus or minus 9. Okay, it could be either way. And let's do one here that comes out with no real solution. If we had something that was like this, 3x squared plus 10 equals 4, right? I'm trying to solve for this. The first step is subtract 10, subtract 10. Uh-oh, I get 3x squared equals negative 6. I divide by 3, I divide by 3, I'm left with x squared equals negative 2. And I guess what? I can't take the square root of a negative number, so that means no real solution. Okay, so there's some quick review. Last thing is to remember our right triangles. So we'll start here tomorrow for the other part of the review. Wow, that was definitely not a right triangle. But here we go. Here's right triangle. So let's say that they give us one side is 8, one side is 10. How do we find what C is? Well, if you remember, all you do is you do a squared. Okay, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I have 8 squared, which is 64, right? 8 squared plus 10 squared, which is 100, equals 164. So to find that, now I have c squared equals 164. So to solve this, I take the square root of both sides, and in my calculator, I punch in the square root of 164, which is a nice 12.8. 12.8. So there is my final answer. 12.8 is where the length of C is. Okay? Now, if they do it the other way around, if they happen to give you, let's say they gave you this 15 is that, and this side is 10, what is A? Remember, all we do is we plug it in our formula. We do C squared, which is 15 squared, equals A squared plus 10 squared. So 15 squared is 225, equals A squared plus 100. So now I subtract 100 from both sides, and I'm left with 125 equals A squared. And I take the square root of both sides. I get A equals, I punch this in my calculator, it's going to be close to 11. It's going to be 11.2. Okay, so there's my final answer. 11.2 is the length of A. Okay, so there's all the review that we're going to do for today's lesson. So this is the Chapter 11 review, and this is on page 483, and we will be doing 1 through 24 all. Okay, should not take you too long. I did a bunch there that will be on the homework. So 1 through 24 all. You guys are almost done with the semester. Great job. Mr. H is over and out.